So you're hearing about no-doc loans. What are they? How do you get them? And how do you get yourself funded when your business doesn't have any money? Hi, my name is Matt Coach. I created this YouTube channel to share the tips, tricks, and mistakes on my way to building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. And today, this Finance Friday, I'm just going to go over what a no-doc or stated income loan is, why there's such thing as a no-doc or stated income loan, how you can qualify for them, and how you can utilize them to grow and scale your startup businesses. So without further ado, let's get to it. No-doc loans, how to get business funding with your startup. Maybe you guys have heard of no-doc loans before. They don't really sound real when you first hear them, but I can attest that they are in fact real. I've gotten plenty of funding with them. What is it? A no-doc or stated income loan is a loan that does not need financial statements to be accepted. So what does that mean? It means that in order to get that loan, you do not need to provide, your profit and loss statements, your tax returns, bank statements, anything along those lines. They're just going to go off of what your stated business revenue is and what your stated personal income is and your personal credit score. How do you get them? So you can find them by applying at banks and credit unions and staying inside their no documentation funding limit. And they're based off of a personal guarantee. So typically a no-doc loan is a credit card. Sometimes you can get a low line of credit for no-doc, but typically we're talking about credit cards when we say no-doc loans. So that is the most likely no-document loan is going to be a business credit card. Big banks and credit unions can give no-doc loans to people. You do have to have very good credit, 750 plus, to get these high-level no-doc loans. That is the system. So what they're generally looking at is your personal history, because your business can't back up the statements. A lot of it is projected income, especially if you have a startup. That should make some sense to you guys, because if you start a brand new business, you don't have any money, right? That doesn't make any sense. How could you get any funding? They have to go based off of your personal, and then they make you personally guarantee it. So if you don't perform, the bank will come after you personally instead of the business. So general guidelines is that you have a business that makes $500,000 or less. This really goes up to $1 million really for revenue, but that's the general spot is $500K or less, and that your personal income is $250,000 or less. You ask for $50,000 or less of funding. So generally speaking, if you ask for over $50,000, you're going to need some sort of documentation. For some banks, it's 25. So, to be honest, 25K is probably the actual number that I would say you could go into most banks and get up to that level of funding without having to provide documentation. But 50K is most people's rules. That's definitely a lot of banks' guidelines. But 25K is probably your safest bet. So if you go in and they ask how much funding you want, if you ask for 25K, you can get something without having to provide documentation a decent amount of the times. And you need to have a good credit score. So at least 720. I know I said earlier 750. I really wouldn't try if I didn't have a 750 plus credit score, but you can definitely get it done at 720 and get some funding. But just with no-doc loans, you can go through Chase, Bank of America, U.S. Bank, American Express, and get their credit cards and get $100,000 with just those four banks if your credit score is, at least that 750 mark, and you have, basically you project that your business could make, $1 million, $500,000 at least of revenue, and that if that were to happen, you could personally take home, up to $250,000. If all of that seems strange, it seems weird to you, it's because it kind of is. essentially there has to be some sort of funding for startup businesses. Otherwise, there'd never be any startup businesses. And banks make money by lending money. So what they want are really high caliber lendees, people with very high credit scores. They want to give those people money because they've shown a lot of responsibility with paying off debt. And banks make money by paying off debt. So by lending out debt and people paying it off back to them and them collecting the interest. So that's what they want. They want that. They also like these credit cards because every time you swipe a credit card, that bank gets paid, usually 2 or 3% for that transaction. So that's also why they enjoy having these credit cards. So they want to give out credit cards to these startup businesses. Do not believe, that you are not fundable just because you haven't made any money yet. You are fundable as long as you can provide yourself a history of, being a responsible person with debt. You can actually get funding for your business, and it's very reasonable to get $100,000 of funding without showing any kind of documentation for your startup businesses by just going after the banks that I just said: Chase, Bank of America, U.S. Bank, American Express. It changes by regionality at that point, but you can go off of some of the Elon financial-based banks in the area. I typically try to target their 0% interest credit cards, utilize those for rehabs of properties. So that's what I personally do. That's how I run my business. I've funded well over $100,000 this way. And it's very doable. It's very doable. You just have to have a very good credit score. So there you guys go. Hopefully that's helpful for you.